Hello. This week I've written a story for you about two men who wake up in neighbouring cells not knowing how they got there. Soon they realise they're facing a difficult dilemma. Travis awoke to the sound of shouting. "Hey," said an echoey voice. "Wake up! I can hear you snoring. Wake up!" "What is this?" said Travis. The space he was in was completely dark. How had he got from the forest to here? And where was here? "Hey! My name's Beresford. Oscar Beresford. Who are you?" "Where am I?" "Your name. What's your name?" "Jason Travis." "Jason, I've been stuck in here alone for 3 weeks now." "I can't see anything," said Travis, panic rising in his voice. "You're in a cell. It's some kind of prison cell. I think we're underground. Do you remember how you got here?" "No." "Neither do I. I was in the forest," Beresford began. "So was I. I was in the forest off Chipping Lane." "Yes, exactly. That's where I was. Then I woke up and I was here." "Isn't there a bloody light?" "The lights go off every evening and come on every morning. At least I think it's evening and morning. I don't have a watch. I've got a phone but the battery died and there's no signal in here anyway." "What time is it?" "It's almost morning, I think. I woke up and I heard you snoring." Travis staggered to his feet and began feeling his way around in the dark. "There's something here. A button." "Yes, that's it. Press it." "What is it?" "Just press it." "What does it do?" "It's the light switch." "You just said the lights go on and off by themselves, mate. Which is it? This don't feel like no light switch." "Look, just trust me, okay? Press the damn switch." "I'm not pressing it till I know what it does." Beresford sighed heavily in frustration. "Will you just press the bloody switch and we can both get out of here?" "This don't feel right. I'm going to wait for the light. Who are you anyway?" "I told you my name is Oscar Beresford. I'm a teacher at the school in Almesbury. I've been missing for 3 weeks." "Yeah, I've heard about you. What are you doing in here then, mate?" "I told you already, I don't know. I was walking in the forest and the next thing I know I'm here." "This is messed up." "I wish you would just trust me and press the button. It opens the door." "Shut your cake hole and let me think for a bit." Beresford sighed again. Travis continued to feel his way around the cell. He'd woken up on a mat on the floor, really a kind of thin mattress covered in plastic. Working around the cell, there was the button, a large bulbous plastic thing sticking out of the wall. And next to it, a smooth surface the size of a large sheet of paper, making a sharp contrast with the roughness of the rest of the wall. A little further along the wall there seemed to be 2 holes opening onto chutes, one going down and the other leading upwards, but neither big enough to get into. The downward chute had an extended lower rim, the concrete jutting slightly outward. Next he found a sink with a tap and a towel hanging next to it. That was on the opposite side to the mat. The remaining wall was blank and empty except for a metal door. It had no handle and he couldn't move it at all, neither by pushing on it nor by clawing at the edges of it with his fingernails. The walls felt like they were made of concrete. Above the mat was a square hole about 6 inches wide, through which he could hear Beresford's voice, supposedly in the neighbouring cell. After finishing his inspection, he sat down again on the mat. "How long before the lights come on then?" "I don't know. It could be an hour, it could be..." Then the light abruptly turned on. Travis blinked and rubbed his eyes. The light came from a hole in the ceiling, covered with a wire metal grill, and again far too small to crawl into. The cell was largely as he had already imagined it, except now he saw there was writing on a piece of plastic stuck next to the button. It said, "Press the button to open the door of the neighbouring cell and cut off your food supply." He was pondering the notice when there was a sudden noise and a supermarket shopping bag made of thin plastic and containing several items fell out of the upward leading chute. So now you've seen it, said Beresford. What? Said Travis, inspecting the shopping bag. It contained a loaf of cheap wholemeal supermarket bread, some cheese, a roll of toilet paper, and a bar of soap. The notice. Yeah, you got the same thing in your cell then? Yep. What does yours say? What does yours say? Why don't you tell me first? Mine says, press to kill the person in the next cell. That's what mine says. You got food too? Just bread and cheese. That's what I've got. Why did you want me to push the button then? Do you want to die or what? Exactly. It's better than being stuck in here. Frickin' weirdo. He was hungry and he started eating the bread and cheese. Then he went to the sink, ran the water, and held his mouth underneath the tap. The water was ice cold. Why don't you press the button? Shut the hell up and let me think. A thought struck him with a swiftness that surprised him, and he tapped his pocket. His phone was still there, switched off so they couldn't track him. He took it out and turned it on. Do you have a signal? Said Beresford hopefully, when he heard the phone playing a little start-up melody. After a pause, the reply came, No. Travis walked around the room, holding the phone up, trying to find a signal. It's useless. I've already tried. There's no signal, I told you. Travis went over to the mat and peered through the square aperture that led to Beresford's cell. The wall between the cells appeared to be about a foot thick. He couldn't see much through the hole, except the opposite wall. Stand up so I can see your face. Beresford obliged. Yeah, you're him. I recognise you from the TV. Are many people looking for me? Said Beresford, hopefully. Probably just locally, mate. A lot of people saying you've probably taken off to France. Christ, this is definitely not France. How do you know? We could be anywhere. The shopping bag, the cheese, it all looks English. Yeah, fair point. What do you do? What do you mean? I mean for a living. What's your job? Painter and decorator, mate. Painter and decorator, Beresford repeated thoughtfully. Do you have any idea who's put us here? Do you have any enemies? Not really. Do you? I don't think so. Well, that's a fat lot of use then, innit? Listen, mate. Go over to the opposite wall for a minute. Why? I just want to try something. Stand on the mat against the wall. Beresford went over to the opposite wall and stood on the mat. Through the aperture, Travis could see all of him except for his feet. Travis took his phone and stuck it through the aperture. Beresford realised he was trying to photograph the notice by the side of the button in his cell. He ran forward and snatched the phone from Travis's hand. Give me that phone back or I'll break your face. Oh, how are you going to do that, Einstein? When we get out of here, I'll make you suffer if you don't give me that phone back, pronto. Travis withdrew his arm from the aperture and glared at Beresford through it, his face distorted with anger and malevolence. Beresford brought his own face level with the aperture. Make me, he said. You got family? Wife, maybe? Kids? You're putting them all in danger. You don't know who you're talking to, you ignorant, uneducated ape, Beresford hissed. I'll cut out your eyes and feed them to you. Travis spat at him, the spittle hitting Beresford's face with surprising accuracy. You piece of human detritus! You asked for it, now you're going to die. I'm pressing the button. I'm pressing the button, Travis repeated in a mocking lisp. Do it then. Push it. Push the button. Any last words? Yeah. Screw you, you pathetic gimp. No, it's too easy. I'm going to push it randomly when I feel like it. You'll never know when you're about to die. Why don't you photograph whatever's written next to that button and give me the phone back? This is my phone now. I'll tell you why, said Travis, straightening up. That button don't say what you say it says. You're a liar. Oh, that's rich coming from you. What do you mean by that, gimp boy? Travis adopted a crude and inaccurate imitation of Beresford's accent, and in sing-song tones he said, Do tell, we are all most anxious to know. Go to hell, Beresford roared. Okay, you'll like this one, said Professor Stephen Green, washing down a piece of steak with a sip of Sauvignon. 2 players. Each player has to choose whether to split or cooperate. If he splits, he gets 100 quid immediately. If he cooperates, he gets 1,000 quid, but only if the other player also cooperates. If the other player splits, he gets nothing. Interesting, said Sam. Let me think. Sam ate a forkful of pasta mixed with seasonable organic vegetables. I'd split, he said. I've been in business too long to trust people. No, you wouldn't, said Sam's wife, Daphne, laughing. You'd cooperate. You're the most trusting person I've ever met. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm not naively trusting. I assess people. You've got to know who you're working with. It's a skill. Do these players get to talk to each other first? Daphne asked Stephen. No, they don't know anything about each other. Depends on their culture though, said Sam. In some cultures people trust each other more than others. If you do this experiment in, say, Norway, people are probably going to cooperate. If you do it in Hungary, they're going to assume the other person's an asshat and they'll split. Stephen glanced back and forth at Sam and Daphne, his eyes sparkling. Are you going to take this revolting slur against your people, Daphne? He asked. Yeah, she said. He's right. We don't trust each other in Hungary. Communism destroyed our trust. Everyone reporting on everyone else. I'd split every time. Okay, what if we change the numbers? If you split, you still get 100. If you cooperate, you get 5,000. But only if the other person also cooperates. Can they discuss it or not? Would that make a difference? I don't know. I mean, it makes no sense to take 100 when you could get 5,000. You've made it too extreme. The problem with you two is you've got more money than God. To some people, £100 might be the difference between eating and not eating. To you two, it's the sort of money you hand out as a tip in a nice restaurant like this one. Stephen gestured around the room. They were sitting at a table lit by candles and discreetly placed soft electric lights built to resemble lanterns. On the walls were watercolours of Tuscany and Provence. Not my fault we got into crypto at the right time, said Sam. We try to use our money to do good. We still value money. You have to, otherwise you get poor real fast. It's hard for me to think of 100 as a lot, I'll admit. You need to raise the stakes, Professor. Give us an experiment we can feel properly invested in. She raised a wry eyebrow at him. Look, this is ridiculous, said Beresford, throwing a bunched-up wad of toilet paper down the chute. He had just finished cleaning up a lump of faeces that Travis had held through the aperture. He began washing his hands meticulously, a look of disgust on his face. We need to cooperate if we're going to get out of here. Unless you give me my phone back, this hole in the wall is my personal rubbish disposal chute and toilet from now on, mate. That's just how it is. I'll give it back. Let's de-escalate. I want a photo of the notice next to your button. All right, you'll have it. Let's just agree not to throw things through the hole. He photographed the notice and slid the phone back through the aperture. It was almost out of charge. Travis read the notice on his phone, laughing quietly. That's what mine says. But you know that, don't you? Yes, I photographed the room when my phone was still working. Figures. We both just need to push our buttons and we'll get out of here. Go ahead and push it then. I'll push mine when you've done it. You push yours first, then I'll push mine. I give you my word. Your word's not worth note, mate. Then we're at something of an impasse, aren't we? Travis laughed again quietly. Listen to me. There's something you don't know. What's that? The food. There's less food every day. Slightly less. Haven't you noticed? I'll bet the loaf they gave you today was smaller than yesterday's, and that was smaller than the one you got the first day we were here. Same with me. They gave me lots of food to start with. Now I'm hungry half the time. They're going to starve us to death if we don't push the buttons." "Yeah, I've noticed it. You'd better push the buttons soon then, hadn't you? Before you start getting all faint." "I'm a school teacher. You can trust me to do what I say." "You've mistaken me for someone who respects teachers." "I don't respect teachers. I hate teachers. Always have." "That's beside the point. The point is, I'm a trustworthy person. If you push the button, I swear on my life, I'll push mine." "Yeah, you're so very trustworthy. What a trustworthy bloke. That's what I said to myself right at the start. Solid gold, that geezer." "What do you mean by that? I am trustworthy. I do a responsible job." "You lied to me when I first got here, and I'm wondering what else you've lied about." "I lied to you about the notice because I was desperate for you to push yours. Surely you can understand that." "You wanted a little bit of power, didn't you? Typical school teacher. You weren't going to tell me your button cuts off your food, like mine." "It was simply a question of maintaining the upper hand. I haven't lied to you about anything else." "Yeah? Then what were you doing before you woke up here? Just going for a nice little walk in the forest?" "That's exactly what I was doing. I happened to have an interest in wild mushrooms. I was looking for chanterelles." "Looking for what?" "Chanterelles. They're a kind of wild mushroom." "Just a nice little innocent walk. Just looking for mushrooms. How friggin' lovely." "It's the truth. What were you doing? Why were you in the forest?" At that moment, bags containing food slid down the upward chutes. Beresford ran to the chute and began shouting, "Hey, let me out of here, please! He's not going to push the button. Let me out! We'll starve! You can't do this!" "Don't waste your time, mate. Whoever put us here wants us here and nowhere else." Beresford turned to banging on the cell door. "Let me out!" he shouted. After some minutes he stopped and began to cry. "I have a wife," he sobbed. "I have people who love me. I have to get out of here." "Yeah, I think I saw her on the news actually, mate. Quite the catch." Beresford darted to the aperture. "Don't you dare insult my wife! Don't you dare! 2 people can play at your disgusting games, you filthy ape. I could make your life a living hell." "You want to see who can hurl the most disgusting filth through this hole, mate? I'm up for it." Beresford went to his mat and curled up on it, crying, "Oh dear God, get me out of this place." "All you've got to do is push the button." "I can't," said Beresford in a whimper. "What's that?" "I can't. You'll go and leave me here and I'll starve." Travis sighed. "You don't trust me. I don't trust you. Seems to me like we ought to start properly communicating. Get to know each other a bit. What about that?" Beresford made a whimpering noise to indicate assent. "Let's start with what you were doing in that forest." Beresford breathed heavily. I was following someone." "A woman?" The question sounded almost like a statement. "Yes, a woman." "Yeah, me too. And what would you have done if you'd caught this woman?" "I just wanted to talk to her." "Sure you did, mate. It's totally normal to follow women around in forests so you can talk to them. Tell you what, mate, I don't even want to know what you're up to." "What were you doing in the forest?" Travis laughed. "You might be educated, but you're not very bright, are you?" "What do you mean?" "Suppose I was up to no good in that forest. If I told you what I was up to, I'd have an incentive to leave you here to rot if I could, wouldn't I? And you, being an educated bloke, would figure that out eventually, and you'd never trust me to push the button. That means you'd never let me out." "What? I'm not following." "Take some time to think about it." Beresford sat quietly, breathing heavily, his nose stuffed up from crying. After a while he said, "I was going to kill her. There you see, I trust you. I was going to strangle her, I admit it. Is that what you wanted? Are you happy now?" "Well, you've done it now, haven't you? Now it's best for you if I never get out. You wouldn't want me telling anyone your little secret, would you?" Once again we arrive at the conclusion that I can't trust you to push that button. You're going to have to push yours first, or we'll both die in here. Beresford swore loudly. I'm sick and tired of these mind games. I've told you what I was doing. Now you have to tell me what you were doing. Then we're equal. You're the serial killer they've been looking for. The Rampton Strangler, they call him. The Forest Killer. Can't really see me ever trusting a confessed serial killer. One woman. I killed one woman. I didn't do the others. Travis laughed. Stuck in a dungeon with a serial killer, he muttered to himself, and he laughed again. You, said Beresford suddenly. What? You killed the others. No, mate, I ain't killed no one. The woman I was following was my girlfriend. I thought she was meeting some bloke she works with, so I followed her. That's all. I don't believe you. Believe what you like. It's the truth. So now I've got something on you, and you've got nothing on me. You've got a reason for letting me die in here, and I've got no reason for wanting you to die, so you better push the button first, then I'll let you out. It's common sense. That's the only thing that works. You idiot. Me, an idiot. Yes, you. Only a psychopath would think like that. Of course you've got a reason for wanting me to die in here. At least you would, if you were a normal person. I've just said I killed a woman and I was about to kill another. Any normal person would happily leave me to rot in here. But you're not normal, are you, Travis? You're not a normal man. You're a killer, just like me. You don't even know how normal people think. Travis was silent. You're a killer, Travis. I've just seen straight through you. Travis began to clap slowly. Bra frickin' oh. So now we both know what we are. I have something else you might like, but it's a bit twisted, said Stephen. It was thought up by a student of mine. She's working on her PhD. The problem is it's too unethical to actually try. Now you're talking, said Sam. Do share. Okay. There are two people. One is an actor, and the other is the actual subject of the experiment. They are both led into a dark room. Do they know each other? Asked Daphne. No, of course not. The whole point is that the subject doesn't know the other person is an actor. He thinks the other person is a test subject like himself. They're actually placed in two separate rooms with a wire grill separating them. They can talk to each other, but they can't see each other. Or if they can see each other, their view is restricted somehow to maximise distrust. And also so that the actor can secretly relax a bit, take some breaks. In each room there's a button on the wall. Next to it there's a notice. The notice says, push this button to open the door of the other cell. But there's a footnote. The footnote says, pressing the button starts a 5-minute timer. When the timer stops, your cell will fill with poison gas. The question is, will either of them press the button? That's dark, said Daphne. I like it. So they can release their cellmate, but only by killing themselves. I don't get it. Why would anyone push the button? They have to rely on their cellmate to push the button too. Then they can both get out of there. Isn't that right, Steve? Exactly. It's about trust. They can only escape by completely trusting the other person, who they don't know. If they can talk and build rapport somehow, they can escape. Otherwise, they're doomed. How did your student come up with this? She sounds like she needs a psychiatrist. Julia. As a matter of fact, she's seeing a psychiatrist. You know this serial killer who's been roaming about Rampton Forest? The Rampton Strangler? Yes, him. He killed Julia's sister. I advised her to write down her thoughts to help her come to terms with it. She's devised 15 different ways to kill him so far. She's trying to devise experiments that kill the guilty and spare the innocent. Sort of like a medieval ordeal trial kind of a thing. Tell her if she can catch him, we'll fund the experiment, said Daphne, laughing. Absolutely, said Sam. I want to see what happens. You two have got way too much money. "3," said Beresford. He was lying on his mat, listening to the rumbling of his stomach. "What?" said Travis. "I killed one woman. The newspapers say 4 women have been killed. I've been trying to remember it. I'm sure they said 4. That means you killed the other 3. That they know of. More? I've said enough." Beresford gave a short, sarcastic laugh. "Heh! I followed her all the way down Chipping Lane, the last one. That's a long lane. She turned off into the forest near the picnic area. I followed her into the forest about half a mile, I'd say. When I got close enough, I shouted to her, told her I'd lost my dog, asked her if she'd seen it. I got closer and closer to her, walked right up to her, almost. She looked nervous, but she didn't run. Then I felt a pain in my neck. That's the last thing I remember. I reckon they shot me with a tranquilizer dart." "What does she look like?" "Pink jacket, shorts, long brown hair, about 23 I'd say." Travis, who was also lying on his mat, staring at the concrete ceiling, scrabbled to a sitting position. "I was following the exact same girl." "No way." "Yes way. Pink jacket, shorts, brown hair, exactly the same, mate." "Did you feel something sting your neck?" "My back. I thought something bit me." "I think we've been played." "What do you mean?" "Can't you see? She's not the victim here. We're the victims. She hunted us, her and an accomplice." "Why not just kill us?" Beresford laughed again. "Ha! She has killed us. You're stupider than I thought if you can't see that." "Screw you." For some minutes they lay in silence. The only sound in the cells was their breathing and the rumbling of their stomachs. "Why did you do it?" "Now you're asking." "I've just always wondered what it would be like to kill someone, take someone's life with my own hands. When you started killing women in the forest, I just thought, why not try it? I knew they'd think you'd done it. I mean, the Rampton Strangler." "Why were you going to kill another one then? Wasn't one enough to satisfy your curiosity?" "I suppose I liked it. Got a bit of a taste for it." "Why did you kill them?" "I hate women." "Fair play to you. Someone must have really messed up your head." "Not really. I've always hated them." Stephen put the sheaf of papers down on his desk. "Julia," he said, "we're psychologists. We're not vigilantes. I'm terribly sorry about what happened to your sister. I really am. But we should leave this to the police." "Think of it as a psychological experiment," said Julia. "So you walk around in the forest alone, and the killer spots you and follows you. Meanwhile, I'm following with a camera, and I run up and photograph him. What's to stop him pulling out a knife and threatening to kill you unless I hand over the camera?" "I'll be armed with a pepper spray." "Pepper spray's illegal, Julia. You'll go to prison even if you're defending yourself." "I won't. He's hardly going to go to the police and complain, is he?" "No, but if they catch him using our photograph, he'll definitely say you pepper sprayed him." "Steve," said Julia, leaning over his desk and staring him directly in the eyes. "Women are dying out there. He's not going to stop. The police aren't doing anything. I'm prepared to spend a few months in prison if that's what I have to do to catch this monster." Stephen sighed, shaking his head. "You know you're crazy." "I'm not crazy." "Tell you what, I know a guy who works for the police in Germany as a psychological profiler. How about if I ask him to profile the Rampton Strangler? At least we'd gain a bit more insight before we go concocting any crazy schemes to catch him." Won't that be expensive? The people who are funding our work here, they're personal friends of mine. If I explain your plan to them, they'll probably pay for a profile. They're as crazy as you are, maybe crazier. Julia stood up straight, smiling. Okay, she said. It's a start. There was a slithering sound and shopping bags containing food fell out of the chutes. Travis cursed in frustration. They mean to starve us to death, and soon, said Beresford. We need to get out of here. Push the button then. I'm telling you on my life, I swear to God, I will push my button if you push yours. Can you not understand what I'm telling you? We're both murderers. We're both the same. We're equal. Neither of us will go to the police. Just push the button. I'm not the same as you, teacher boy. I'm a serial killer. You're just someone who strangled a woman once. Now shut your trap for a bit. I'm eating. What is this, a flipping competition? I've just as much reason to avoid the police as you. No, you don't, said Travis, his mouth full of bread. I've murdered way more women than you. You could strike a plea deal and get off in return for telling them about me. I'm not letting you out unless you let me out first. They're not going to let me off after I've told them I've murdered someone, you idiot. Reduce sentence then, whatever. You knuckle-dragging imbecile. That makes no sense at all. We both just want to get out of here. You push the button first then. How do I know you're even real? What? For all I know, said Travis, in between eating chunks of bread and cheese. You're an actor, a stooge. You're just trying to make me confess, extract information. You have confessed. Why would we still be in here if I were an actor? You probably want to know where they're buried. You absolute cretin. Do you seriously think I'd agree to spend weeks in a cell living off bread and cheese just to get information out of you? I can't actually see the side of your cell, mate. For all I know, your door's open and you've got all the comforts of home right there. You're losing your tiny mind. How do I know you're not an actor? Yeah, said Travis, chewing his food. You don't. Right, that's it. You've driven me to this. From Beresford's cell came the sound of fabric being torn. What the hell are you doing? I'm tearing up my mat. Why are you doing that? Beresford made no reply. Travis peered through the aperture. Frickin' lunatic. Beresford disappeared out of his field of vision, taking the torn-up mattress with him. What are you doing? I'm blocking up the sink and the rubbish chute. Why are you doing that, you plank? You'll see. After 10 minutes, Beresford turned on his tap. Your tap's running, you mentaloid. Yes, and it's going to go on running until both our cells fill completely up with water. You what? Said Travis, laughing. My cell will fill first, but only up to the hole between our cells. Then the water will gush into your cell. Eventually, you'll drown. The water will go down my rubbish chute, you fool. Yeah, and how deep do you think that is? It's not connected to a sewer, is it? I can smell all the stuff I've thrown down there. It reeks of excrement in here. I reckon it goes down maybe 2 or 3 metres. It'll fill up pretty quickly. You'll drown too. We'll both drown unless you open my cell door. That's the only way you can drain the water. No, said Travis, with exaggerated patience. We'll both drown unless you open my cell door. Then we'll both drown, because I don't trust you further than I can spit. Julia was sitting in the psychology library, making notes from a book, when Stephen sat down next to her. He placed a folder on the table in front of her. What's that? She asked. Report from the profiler. You're going to want to read it. Why, what does it say? It says there isn't just one man murdering women. There's 2. 2? The profiler says the second one's probably a copycat. His MO, mode of operation, is mostly the same, but what he does to the corpses afterwards is different. I'd suggest not reading it before bedtime. I wish I'd not read it at all. I still feel sick. So what now? If there's 2, that doubles our chances. We can at least catch one of them. You see, my friends, Sam and Daphne, I told them about your experiment, the one with the cells and the buttons. I can't believe I'm even considering this, but they pointed out that if we had 2 subjects, we wouldn't need an actor. It'd actually be a pretty interesting experiment. You're suggesting we catch them and experiment on them, said Julia, smiling broadly in amazement. Shh, said Stephen, looking around the library suspiciously. Keep your voice down. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm just relaying an idea my friends raised. They suggest we scrap the pepper spray. They did some work on rescuing wounded gorillas in Africa somewhere. They've got tranquilizer darts, and they've suggested a few minor modifications to the experiment. If you do it, our story is going to be that you're an innocent victim, and my friends Sam and Daphne will take full responsibility for everything. They've got 3 different passports at least. After it's done, they'll disappear abroad. We don't think the police will care enough to chase them. The experiment will last maybe a month, and if they press the buttons, they'll be released. But we'll send their photographs to the police when we catch them, and we'll record their conversations and send the recordings to the police too. We'd be able to listen in on them, said Julia excitedly. Hold your horses. We think there's too much danger of excessive emotional involvement if we do that. No, we'd record them and only listen to the recordings after the experiment's finished. And if we only catch 1, then Sam will be the actor. What do you think? If you want, I can put you in touch with them. I'm probably going to stay out of it. It'd be between you and them. Do it, said Julia. Julia, this won't bring your sister back. No, but it'll save someone else's sister. The summer was almost over and autumn was beginning when they made their way down the muddy track to the building they called the Box. There was a slight chill in the air. We should just leave them in there, said Daphne. I agree, said Julia. That's not what we decided, said Stephen. We're not murderers. It's been over a month and neither of them's pushed the button. It's time to let them out. The police know who they are now. They won't stay free for long. I agree with you, said Sam. But you have to admit there is a risk. It's minimal. They've nowhere to go and everyone knows their faces. I really want to hear the recordings. I can't wait. Eventually they arrived at a barn at the side of a field. This is it? This is it. It looks too flimsy. Looks can be deceptive. Inside there's a brick wall and inside that there's a concrete inner shell a foot thick. They'll think they're underground. How do you feed them? There's a machine above the cells. It dispenses shitty long-life bread and cheese. Underneath there's a cesspit. Sam unlocked a padlocked door and opened it. Inside were 2 wooden doors, set into wooden panelling. These aren't the cell doors. They're outer doors for soundproofing. The real doors are behind them. They're made of metal. What if they push the buttons now while we're here? Said Daphne nervously. Don't worry. There's a 2-minute delay before they open. We'd have time to get away. The buttons actually do open the doors then. Yep. They could have left any time they wanted. He flipped open a plastic case attached to the wall between the doors, revealing a green button, and held his thumb over it. Do I press it? He asked. Let them die. You have to press it. Stephen's right. Let the police deal with them. Sam pressed the button. So now the timer's started? Daphne asked. Yep, said Sam. In an hour the doors will spring open. We'd better get out of here. Don't forget the recordings. Good point, said Sam, and he pushed and then pulled out a micro SD card from underneath the button. An hour later they were sitting in a house Sam and Daphne had borrowed from a wealthy friend, listening to the recording. It's exactly as you predicted. Told you. I knew neither of them would ever trust each other. Go to the end, said Daphne. The end's got to be the most interesting bit. Sam clicked the video player on the computer screen to play the end of the recording. Shame we didn't film it, said Julia. From the computer came the sound of splashing and screaming. What the devil is this? Said Stephen. 3 miles away, in the field, the cell doors opened and a torrent of water gushed out. The corpses of 2 men washed out with it and lay still on the field, where the crows soon began to peck at their eyes. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Science Horror. My name's John Purcell, and once a week I write a story, read it out and upload it to the internet. By the way, there is no artificial intelligence involved in these stories, except for the images you see on the video, which are generated in Midjourney and arranged carefully by me, by hand. If you enjoyed this week's story, please make a rule in your household that you are going to do all the cooking for anyone who doesn't cook for themselves. Then decide using this rule whether to cook for yourself or not. If you are cooking for yourself, please click the like button, and if you aren't, please subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm going to have another story for you next week. It's probably going to be about a young German man who is recruited via the internet into some kind of secretive group that wants to assassinate a German politician. But when the police start to look into it, they find that nothing is quite as it appears. Do join me again next week for that, or whatever I write instead if I change my mind. Thanks for all your wonderful comments, I really appreciate them. As soon as I upload every video, I'm checking all the comments all the time to see what people think of my story. Until next time, sleep well.